Ever notice how some people lose their minds the second someone is rude to them? It's almost automatic. Someone throws an insult and they snap back. But then there's that other type of woman. Someone tries to disrespect her and she barely blinks. She doesn't yell, she doesn't cry, and she definitely doesn't make a scene. It can actually be pretty unsettling for the person trying to start drama. We usually label this woman a Sigma, but honestly, it's just someone who has mastered their own emotions. If you've ever wondered why she stays so quiet when the heat turns up, it's usually for one of these 9 reasons. First up, she knows that reaction is a form of currency, and she's not spending it on cheap behavior. Look, getting angry takes energy. Defending yourself takes energy. If a Sigma female doesn't value you or your opinion, she isn't going to waste her limited resources explaining why you're wrong. It's an economic decision. You just aren't worth the emotional expense. Think about your emotional energy like it's a tangible bank account. You wake up every morning with a specific balance. You have a certain amount of patience, a certain amount of focus, and a limited amount of emotional bandwidth to get you through the day. Most people spend this currency recklessly. They throw $5 of anger at the guy who cut them off in traffic. They drop $50 of frustration on a rude comment online, and they spend $100 of stress on a coworker who made a snide remark. By noon, they're emotionally bankrupt. She operates differently because she understands the value of her own peace. She looks at a situation where she's being disrespected, and she does a quick cost-benefit analysis. She asks herself if this person, this specific interaction, is worth the price tag. Because getting angry isn't free. It costs you something. It spikes your cortisol, it ruins your mood, and it diverts your focus from things that actually matter. When someone tries to provoke her, they are essentially asking her to pay them with her attention. They are demanding a transaction. They want to trade their cheap insult for her expensive reaction. And honestly, for most people, the price is just too high. She's not being passive, she's being frugal. You have to realize that explaining yourself to someone who is committed to misunderstanding you is one of the most expensive things you can do. It drains you completely. You try to correct them, you try to defend your character, and you try to make them see your side. But if that person is just looking to get a rise out of you, you are throwing your energy into a black hole. She knows that silence preserves her capital. It's also about what the other person deserves. Reaction validates the aggressor. It tells them, you are important enough to ruin my day. When you snap back, you are implicitly telling that person that their opinion holds weight in your life. By refusing to react, she is making a very clear statement about their value. She is saying that their disrespect doesn't even register on her radar. It's like a billionaire worrying about losing a penny. It just doesn't matter enough to warrant a reaction. This approach drives manipulative people crazy because they rely on that exchange. They need you to get upset to feel powerful. When you treat your reaction like gold bars that you keep locked in a vault, you starve them of the supply they're looking for. Consider the opportunity cost. Every minute she spends arguing with someone who doesn't matter is a minute she isn't spending on her goals, her health, or the people she actually loves. She is fiercely protective of her resources. If she engages with every slight or every rude comment, she's letting other people dictate her budget. So when she sits there and says nothing, looking completely unbothered, it's not because she didn't hear the insult. She heard it. She processed it. She just decided that the person speaking wasn't a premium enough subscriber to get a response. It's an economic decision to keep her assets safe. She saves that energy for constructive conversations, for creativity, and for building her own life, rather than tearing down someone else's. In her world, indifference is the ultimate sign that you simply cannot afford her attention. That leads to the fact that silence is often louder than screaming. When someone disrespects you, they are usually looking for a specific payout. They want to see you hurt, angry, or defensive. It validates them. When you give them absolutely nothing, just a blank stare, it forces their words to hang in the air. It makes them look loud and unstable, while you look untouched. It's the ultimate power move because it denies them the satisfaction of impacting you. You have to understand the physics of an argument. It requires two opposing forces pushing against each other to sustain momentum. When one person pushes and the other person turns into a ghost, the aggressor falls flat on their face. There is a profound awkwardness that silence creates, and most people cannot handle it. We are socially conditioned to fill gaps in conversation. If someone asks a question or makes an accusation, our instinct is to immediately jump in with an answer or a denial. When you override that instinct and just let the silence sit there, it shifts the pressure back onto the person who just spoke. Suddenly, they are the one standing there in a quiet room, listening to the echo of their own rude comment. It makes them incredibly self-conscious. You can actually watch this happen in real time. They will say something nasty, waiting for you to snap. When you don't, they often start stuttering, backpedaling, or doubling down in a way that makes them look even more unhinged. The silence acts like a spotlight that exposes their behavior for exactly what it is. Without your reaction to muddy the waters, there is no confusion about who is the aggressor and who is the adult in the room. If you scream back, you become a participant in the drama. You get down in the mud with them, and to an outsider, you both look like the problem. But when you stay silent, you create a stark contrast. You are the calm statue. They are the erratic storm. This contrast does more damage to their reputation than any clever comeback you could possibly think of. It forces them to sit with their own toxicity. They want you to take the bait so they can blame their reaction on yours. They want to say, "Well, I only yelled because she yelled first." By staying silent, you remove their scapegoat. You force them to own their behavior 100%. It's also deeply unsettling for a manipulator because they use your reactions to gauge where to hit you next. If they insult your work and you get defensive, they know that's a sore spot. If they mock your appearance and you cry, they know that's a weakness. Silence gives them no data. They are firing shots in the dark, having no idea if they are landing or not. It makes them feel powerless and ignored, which is usually the exact opposite of what they wanted when they started the confrontation. You are effectively communicating that their words are so insignificant that they don't even warrant the effort of opening your mouth. It's a rejection of their entire premise. You aren't playing their game, and nothing frustrates a person looking for a fight more than an opponent who simply refuses to enter the ring. Honestly, most disrespect is just projection anyway. A Sigma woman understands psychology. She knows that when someone is lashing out, it's rarely about her. It's about their bad day, their insecurity, or their jealousy. When you realize the person yelling is actually just fighting a battle with themselves, it's hard to take it personally. You don't get mad at a child for throwing a tantrum, and she doesn't get mad at adults for acting like children. This perspective shifts the entire dynamic of a confrontation. Instead of feeling attacked, she feels a sense of detachment, almost like she's watching a movie where the main character is having a meltdown. She knows that happy, secure, and fulfilled people do not go around trying to tear others down. It just doesn't happen. If someone is going out of their way to make you feel small, it is a glaring admission that they feel small themselves. They are trying to transfer their negative feelings onto you because they can't handle carrying the weight of them anymore. It's a disposal mechanism. They have garbage inside them, shame, regret, inadequacy, and they are looking for a trash can to dump it in. She simply refuses to be that trash can. When you understand this, the insult loses its sting. If someone calls her arrogant, she translates that to mean, "I feel intimidated by your confidence." If someone calls her cold, she hears, "I am upset that I cannot manipulate you emotionally." She is essentially acting as a translator, decoding the surface-level noise to find the root cause, which is invariably the other person's unresolved trauma or lack of self-worth. It changes her internal reaction from anger to something closer to pity. It's hard to be furious at someone who is clearly telling on themselves. Every insult acts like a confession. The things people criticize in others are almost always the things they dislike in themselves, or the things they wish they had but believe they can't achieve. By staying calm, she isn't just ignoring the words. She is diagnosing the speaker. She realizes that their behavior is a symptom of their own internal chaos, and she has no interest in adopting that chaos as her own. It's a form of emotional hygiene. You wouldn't let a stranger walk into your house with muddy shoes, so why would you let them walk into your mind with their muddy emotions? She keeps the door locked. This understanding also prevents her from falling into the trap of trying to fix them or prove them wrong. You cannot use logic to cure someone's projection. If their anger is based on their own internal narrative, no amount of explaining your side will change that. They are committed to seeing you as the villain, because they need a villain to justify their own unhappiness. Recognizing this frees her from the burden of defense. She doesn't need to defend her reality because she knows their attack isn't based on reality in the first place. It's based on a distorted reflection in a funhouse mirror. She leaves them to fight their ghosts while she continues on with her day, unburdened by baggage that was never hers to carry. There's also the issue of control. The moment you react to disrespect, you are letting the other person control your emotional state. You're handing them the remote. If they say, "Jump," and you get angry, you jumped. By not reacting, she keeps the control firmly in her own hands. She decides how she feels, not the person trying to provoke her. You have to realize that whoever angers you conquers you. It's an old piece of wisdom, but it's terrifyingly accurate. When someone is able to walk into a room, say a few words, and completely ruin your mood or dictate your behavior, they are the master, and you are the subordinate. It doesn't matter if you are the boss, the wealthier one, or the smarter one. If they can push a button and make you explode, they own you in that moment. A Sigma female places a supreme value on her autonomy. She refuses to be a puppet on a string. Reactive people are incredibly easy to manipulate because they are predictable. If a manipulator knows that insulting your intelligence makes you defensive, they will use that every time they want to distract you or put you on the back foot. It's like a cheat code for them. But when you don't react, you break the mechanism, you cut the strings. They pull the lever and nothing happens. This preserves her authority over her own life. It's about emotional sovereignty. She understands that she cannot control what other people say or do. People are going to be rude, they are going to be unfair, and they are going to be messy. But she has absolute dictatorship over how she internalizes those things. If she decides to remain calm, no amount of screaming from the outside can force her to change that internal setting. It drives controlling types absolutely mad because they are used to people playing by their rules. They expect a stimulus-response loop. They input an insult. They get an output of anger. When you disrupt that loop, you are essentially telling them that their input is faulty. You are proving that their influence stops at the barrier of your skin. It's not about suppressing emotions or pretending not to feel anything. It's about deciding that this specific person does not have the clearance level to access your emotions. You are keeping the keys to your own house. Why would you give a stranger or an enemy the power to decide if you have a good day or a bad day? That power belongs to you alone. By staying grounded, she is reinforcing the hierarchy of her life. She is at the top, and everyone else is just noise. She maintains her center of gravity while the other person spins out of control. In the end, the person who stays calm is the one who leads the interaction, determining the pace and the outcome, while the person losing their temper is just a passenger on a ride they can't stop. While everyone else is busy shouting, she's busy collecting data. This is a big one. When things get heated, people show you who they really are. A Sigma female uses that time to observe. She's watching how you fight. She's listening to the low blows you're willing to take. She's not reacting because she's studying you to decide if you still deserve a place in her life tomorrow. You have to look at conflict as a truth serum. People can fake niceness for years. They can fake generosity, patience and loyalty when the sun is shining and everything is going their way. But you cannot fake your reaction to stress. The moment the pressure hits, the mask slips and the real person comes tumbling out. She knows this. She knows that a heated argument is the rare opportunity to see the raw, unedited version of the person standing in front of her. So instead of blinding herself with her own rage, she keeps her eyes wide open. She switches from participant to anthropologist. She is analyzing your tactics. She is paying attention to the specific weapons you choose to use. Do you attack the problem, or do you attack her character? Do you stay on topic, or do you bring up a mistake she made 5 years ago just to score points? Do you twist her words? Do you reveal secrets she told you in confidence? This is all critical intelligence. If you are willing to use her vulnerability against her just to win an argument, she needs to know that. And the only way she finds that out is by letting you talk. If she were screaming over you, she might miss the moment you revealed your lack of integrity. By staying quiet, she gives you enough rope to hang yourself. She lets you lay all your cards on the table. It's a strategic pause. She is assessing your conflict resolution skills, or the lack thereof. She is looking at your emotional regulation. If you are a grown adult throwing insults like a playground bully, she is noting that down. It's not just about the current fight, it's about risk assessment for the future. She is asking herself, is this what my life looks like if I stay connected to this person? Is this how they will handle every disagreement we ever have? She is calculating the long-term cost of your presence in her life. Most people think that because she isn't fighting back, she isn't doing anything. But internally, she is making executive decisions. She is recategorizing you. You might have walked into the room as a trusted friend, but based on the data you are giving her right now, you might leave as a casual acquaintance or a stranger. She is updating your file. She realizes that how you fight is a better indicator of your character than how you love. Anyone can love when it's easy. Character is how you treat people when you are angry with them. So she waits, she watches, and she listens. She lets you exhaust your supply of venom, and she analyzes every drop of it. She isn't frightened by your outburst, she is informed by it. And once she has gathered enough data to make a conclusion about who you really are, she doesn't need to argue with you. She just adjusts her boundaries accordingly and moves on, armed with the undeniable truth you just handed her. Sometimes the lack of reaction is the boundary. We're taught that we have to verbalize our boundaries. Don't talk to me like that, or I won't accept this behavior. But often, simply disengaging is stronger. By not reacting, she is physically and emotionally removing herself from the situation. She's showing you that your behavior doesn't warrant a response. It's a way of saying, this conversation is beneath me, without speaking a word. The problem with verbalizing a boundary to a disrespectful person is that it often opens the floor for a negotiation. You say, don't yell at me, and they reply with, I wasn't yelling, I was just passionate. Suddenly, you are in a debate about the definition of yelling. You are arguing about the validity of your feelings. It becomes a semantic trap where they try to lawyer their way out of respecting you. She bypasses this entire exhausted dance. She knows that boundaries are not just about what you say. They are about what you entertain. When you stop entertaining the disrespect, the boundary is set in stone. It is a non-verbal contract that says, access to me is a privilege, and you just lost it. Think of her attention like a storefront. When you act respectfully, the shop is open, the lights are on, and business is good. But the moment you bring disrespect to the counter, she doesn't stand there and argue with you about the return policy. She just flips the sign to closed, turns off the lights, and goes to the back room. You can stand outside and bang on the door all you want, but the transaction is over. This is infinitely more powerful than a lecture. A lecture tells them you are hurt. Silence tells them you are unavailable. It creates a vacuum. It forces the other person to realize that their behavior yields zero results. It doesn't get a fight, it doesn't get a fix, and it doesn't get a compromise. It gets nothing. It is a total embargo on communication. This is particularly effective because it requires no cooperation from the other party. To have a conversation about boundaries, the other person has to be willing to listen. To set a silent boundary, only she needs to participate. It is a unilateral decision. She is drawing a line in the sand, and instead of asking you not to cross it, she simply steps back so far that you can't reach her anymore. It protects her dignity. There is something inherently degrading about begging someone to treat you with basic human decency. It puts you in a position of weakness, asking for crumbs. By refusing to engage, she maintains her posture. She keeps her self-respect intact because she isn't lowering herself to the level of the insult. She isn't rolling around in the dirt trying to convince a pig not to be messy. She stays clean. She understands that the strongest no isn't shouted, it's demonstrated. It's the absence of yes. It's the absence of her energy, her warmth and her presence. When she goes cold, that chill is the boundary, and it freezes out the nonsense far faster than any heated argument ever could. It is the ultimate rejection of the dynamic they are trying to create, and it proves that while they can choose to be disrespectful, she can choose to be gone. Here's the thing about winning arguments. The prize is usually just stress. She prioritizes her internal peace over being right. You can win the argument and lose your cool, or you can lose the argument and keep your peace. She chooses peace every time. She knows that trying to convince a disrespectful person to respect her is like trying to teach a cat to bark. It's pointless and annoying. We live in a culture that is obsessed with having the last word. We are taught that if someone says something incorrect or unfair, we have a moral obligation to correct them. We feel this burning need to set the record straight, to pull up the receipts, and to force them to admit they are wrong. But a Sigma female looks at the endgame. She plays the tape forward. She asks herself, okay, let's say I engage. Let's say I spend the next hour debating this point, dismantling their logic, and proving without a shadow of a doubt that I am right. What do I actually walk away with? The answer is almost always nothing but exhaustion. You might win the debate, but you've spiked your cortisol, you've ruined your mood, and you've wasted time you can never get back. And for what? To stroke your own ego, to get an apology from someone whose opinion you don't even respect. It's a bad trade. She realizes that her peace of mind is the most valuable asset she owns, and she refuses to gamble it on petty squabbles. It's about understanding the nature of the opponent. Disrespectful people aren't looking for the truth. They are looking for dominance. You cannot use logic to defeat someone who is operating purely on emotion and insecurity. It's like bringing a calculator to a knife fight. The tools just don't match. You are trying to have a rational conversation, and they are trying to have a power struggle. She accepts that she cannot force anyone to understand her point of view. You can explain it to them, but you can't understand it for them. Once she realizes that the other person is committed to being wrong, she simply lets them be wrong. This is a massive ego check. It takes a lot of confidence to let someone walk away thinking they won, when you know for a fact they are clueless. But she doesn't need their validation to know she's right. She doesn't need them to sign off on her reality. There is a tremendous freedom in letting people be wrong about you. If they want to believe you are the villain, let them. If they want to believe their skewed version of events, let them. She isn't the truth police. She isn't a pro bono life coach here to fix their personality flaws. She steps out of the ring because she knows the only winning move is not to play. It drives people crazy because they want the resistance. They want the friction. When she denies them that friction, she preserves her own energy. She visualizes her peace as a fortress. Outside the walls there is chaos, noise, and nonsense. She can choose to lower the drawbridge and run out into the mud to fight every barbarian that yells her name, or she can stay inside, drink her tea, and let them yell at the stones. She stays inside. She knows that protecting her inner state is more important than proving a point to someone who isn't listening anyway. In the grand scheme of things, being happy and unbothered is the ultimate victory, and being right is just a consolation prize for people who don't know how to let go. Also, she doesn't need external validation. A lot of people react to disrespect because they feel their reputation is under attack. They need to prove to everyone watching that they are tough, smart, or worthy. It's a performance. When someone insults you in front of a group, there is this sudden crushing pressure to clap back so you don't look like a pushover. You feel like you're on trial, and if you don't offer a defense, the jury will find you guilty. A Sigma female doesn't care what the audience thinks because she isn't performing for them. She knows who she is. If you think she's stupid, weak, or incompetent, that is your problem, not hers. She operates with a strong internal locus of control. This means her sense of self-worth comes from her own assessment, not from the opinions of others. Think about it like this. If you are holding a solid gold bar in your hand and someone screams at you that it's actually made of rusted iron, you don't get angry. You don't feel the need to argue with them or prove them wrong. You just look at the gold, look at them, and realize they are either blind or delusional. You don't feel threatened because the truth is physical and undeniable to you. That is how she views her own value. It is a fact, not a debate. When she doesn't react, she is silently communicating that her worth is not up for negotiation. It's not something that can be diminished just because someone said something mean. By contrast, constant defensiveness often signals insecurity. When you rush to defend yourself against every slight, you are subconsciously signaling that you are afraid the accusation might be true. You are trying to convince yourself as much as you are trying to convince them. She understands that you don't need to defend the truth. The truth defends itself eventually. She isn't worried about her image in the moment because she focuses on her character in the long term. Reputation is just what people whisper about you. Character is what you actually are. She knows that if she maintains her character, the reputation will sort itself out. She refuses to hand over her self-esteem to someone else for safekeeping. If you react, you are essentially saying, "I need you to respect me so that I can feel good about myself." That is a dangerous position to be in because it places your happiness in the hands of your enemies. She keeps her validation in-house. She approves of herself, and that is the only signature she needs. This makes her bulletproof against insults that are designed to lower her status. You can't lower the status of someone who doesn't look to you for their ranking. She realizes that people who try to humiliate others are usually desperate for attention and validation themselves. They want to drag you down to their level so they don't feel so alone at the bottom. By ignoring them, she stays at her level. She denies them the validation of being acknowledged. It's a quiet arrogance, perhaps, but it's a healthy one. It's the knowledge that she doesn't have to prove she's a good person, a smart worker, or a loyal friend. Her actions over time prove that. She doesn't need to win a shouting match to establish her value. Her existence is the proof, and if you can't see that, she isn't going to waste her breath explaining it to you. She just keeps moving, confident in her own skin, leaving the doubters to argue with her shadow. Finally, she's already planned her exit. This is the one people miss. Just because she didn't react in the moment doesn't mean there are no consequences. While you were yelling, she was mentally demoting you from friend to acquaintance, or from partner to ex. The silence isn't forgiveness. It's her processing the paperwork to cut you off. She doesn't need to make a scene to leave. She'll just be gone. There is a terrifying finality to this kind of silence. Most people mistake a lack of immediate retaliation for weakness or acceptance. They think, "Oh, she didn't say anything, so I got away with it." They couldn't be more wrong. In reality, she is engaging in a silent severance process. When someone disrespects her deeply, she doesn't see the value in warning them that they are about to lose her. Warnings are for people you want to keep. Warnings are an attempt to fix things. If she has reached the point of total non-reaction, it means she has already decided that the relationship is beyond repair. She isn't fighting for it anymore. She is practically packing her bags while standing right in front of you. It's a cold, calculated assessment that the return on investment for this relationship has hit zero. Think of it as an emotional eviction. She doesn't need to scream at the tenant. She just changes the locks. The person doing the disrespecting often relies on the drama to know where they stand. They expect a big blow-up, a breakup speech, or a tearful confrontation. When they don't get it, they assume everything is fine. They continue on, oblivious, until one day they reach out and realize she is simply not there anymore. No block, no big announcement, just an absence. She becomes a ghost. This is often far more haunting than a loud breakup. A loud exit leaves a door open. It says, "I am hurt. Please fix this." A silent exit slams the door and welds it shut. She realizes that closure is something you give yourself, not something you get from explaining your feelings to someone who doesn't care. Why would she waste her breath outlining her reasons for leaving to someone who didn't listen when she was staying? It's illogical. She operates on a strike system that she keeps to herself. You might not even know you were on your last strike until you're out. This scares people because it denies them the chance to manipulate their way back in. If she told you she was leaving, you could apologize. You could promise to change. You could gaslight her. By keeping her exit strategy internal, she protects her decision from your influence. She secures her freedom before you even know she's gone. It's the ultimate form of self-preservation. She saves the energy she would have spent on a dramatic exit and invests it into her new life without you. It's efficient, it's clean, and it's permanent. She understands that access to her life is a privilege, not a right. When that privilege is abused, she revokes it without a hearing. So while the disrespectful person is celebrating their temporary win in the argument, they fail to notice that they have actually lost the war. They have lost her respect, her trust, and ultimately her presence. She treats the relationship like a business deal that has gone bad. She cuts her losses, closes the account, and never looks back. So, next time you see someone stay strictly calm in the face of disrespect, don't mistake it for weakness. They just have a different strategy. You have to realize that this level of composure isn't something you are born with. It is a skill you build. It is a muscle that you have to train every single day. We live in a world that profits off your outrage. Social media algorithms, toxic co-workers, and manipulative partners all feed on your reaction. They want you triggered. They want you engaged in the mess because it keeps you distracted from your purpose. Choosing not to react is an act of rebellion. It is the most radical thing you can do in a society that expects you to be loud and messy. It is saying, I refuse to be part of the noise. When you master this, you change the entire trajectory of your life. You stop attracting drama because you stop feeding it. You start attracting respect because you demand it through your behavior, not just your words. It is a shift from being a passenger in your own emotional life to being the driver. It's going to be hard at first. Your instinct will be to defend yourself. Your ego will scream at you to fight back, to set the record straight, to make sure they know they can't talk to you like that. But every time you choose silence over shouting, you get a little bit stronger. You gain a little bit more control. You start to see people differently. You stop seeing them as threats and start seeing them as lessons. You realize that most people are just projecting their own issues, and you develop a kind of Teflon coating against their negativity. It just slides right off. This is the essence of the mindset we've been talking about. It's not about being cold or unfeeling. It's about being selective. It's about curating your energy with the same precision that a museum curator selects art. Only the best gets in. The rest stays outside. You will find that when you stop arguing with people who are committed to misunderstanding you, you suddenly have a lot more time to build the life you actually want. You have more energy for your career, your hobbies, and the relationships that actually pour into you rather than drain you. If this perspective makes sense to you, or if you are tired of wasting your energy on people who don't deserve it, you are in the right place. This channel isn't about fluff or generic motivation. It's about understanding the psychology behind why we do what we do, and how to navigate the world with a bit more strategy and a lot less stress. We are building a community of people who value their peace over everything else. If that sounds like you, hit that like button. It helps the algorithm find other people who need to hear this message. And if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on notifications. You don't want to miss the next video, because we are going to keep digging deeper into these dynamics. There is a lot more to cover. Remember, your reaction is your power. Don't give it away for free. Keep your standards high, keep your peace protected, and don't let anyone pull you down to a level you have already outgrown. See you in the next one.